Hello, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Conversations, Coatings Edition this morning. Come on in and get cozy. We're going to get started in just about a minute. Welcome into Coffee Conversations, everyone. Come on in and get cozy. Bring your coffee and your questions for these panelists, and we're going to get started in about just a couple seconds. All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Ellsworth here at CoatingsCoffeeShop.com, and I'm really excited because we have such an esteemed panel today for Coffee Conversations. But before we get into talking about them, I would like to just thank our sponsor, APOC. Today we're talking about roof restoration during this, tight economical time. And they brought this really great topic to us. So thank you, APOC, for being a great partner with Coatings Coffee Shop. So we really appreciate you. Okay, Johnny, let's start with you. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, hey, good morning. And Megan, thank you for putting this together and having us on. But yeah, I'm Johnny Walker. I'm the National Technical Manager, Roofing and Waterproofing for ICP and APOC. Been roofing roughly 40 years. Been with ICP, APOC now 16 years. So
Wow.
moving right along. I'm hoping this will be my forever home and just do this until I retire. But it's been a great industry to work in, and you know, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, we love working with you, Johnny, over there at APOC. So thanks for being here. Anthony Martin, who the heck are you?
Hello, good morning, everybody. I am Anthony Martin. I am a territory manager for APOC Roofing and Waterproofing in the Southwest, based out of Tucson, Arizona, the acrylic capital of the country. Been with APOC for a little over 5 years, specializing along with Johnny on the technical aspect of coating and roof restorations and fluid applied restoration systems. I have a strong dedication to high level of customer service and sales process for all customer points, whether it's our distribution partners, our contractors, or our ultimate end users. I feel like it's very important, especially in this industry, to be honest, transparent, and give contractors and our end user customers an honest opinion and a truly quality product that they can rely on for a long time.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Thank you for sharing. Thomas,
Hey, good
hello.
morning. Thank you for joining. I'm Tom O'Toole, RMS Orlando, Vice President. We are a commercial industrial roofing contractor here in Florida, with branches in Orlando and Tampa.
Amazing. Thank you for being
Mhm.
here.
Of
And last
course.
but certainly not least, Howard. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. I'm Howard Piper. I'm president of PBA Design Group. We're an architectural firm, a specialty architectural firm, because we only deal with the exterior of buildings, doing mostly restoration, whether that's roofing or painting or weatherproofing or below grade or replacing cladding or windows. I've
Amazing.
been in the business since 1971, and it's been a good business for us.
Absolutely, yes. Well, thank you for being here, everyone. Thank you, Howard, for sharing. Um, just so everyone knows, the chat is open. Share where you're zooming in from and say hey in the chat. And if you have questions throughout this conversation, please put them in the chat and we will get to them as soon as we can. Okay, so on here, we just have some examples of some restoration work from our guests. So I'm just going to keep that up here. So gentlemen, let's start out by talking about the current environment and customer confidence in commercial roofing. Um, Howard, do you want to take this away?
Well, since we're talking about coatings, it is a great way to go. We encourage our clients to not to wait till the roof is worn out to replace the roof. That's expensive, but consider at 10 to 15 years out, depending on the condition of the roof, begin putting coatings on there. Maintain the roof rather than replace it, much like you might maintain your car rather than just ignore it until it rolls over dead. Maintain it, change the oil, rotate the tires, and do all those things. We don't get a lot of our clients that want to do that because of budget constraints, but it's something that we preach often is it's a lot cheaper to coat it than just keep replacing it.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Gentlemen,
that's a valid point. The sustainability of the roof system is huge in this market. Roofing materials not getting any cheaper. Just continually gets more and more expensive. So tearing it off, putting it in a landfill, is not a great option anymore, right? Having a re-roof done, you're looking at a massive cost, for a full tear off.
Yep.
So having a system that's sustainable, maintainable, that's very much environmentally friendly and in line with the current climate for that and the ability to actually get it done, the cost of it.
yeah. Tom, what are you
Yep.
seeing with customer confidence with these
Well,
commercial roofing projects?
to kind of piggyback off of John there, I mean, the conventional roof system, the price increases that we've seen, availability issues,
Yeah.
there's so many components, multiple components that go into each one of those roof systems. And, maybe you have some available, maybe you have some that aren't, some are increasing in price, some are sticking. And it's just, it gives us an opportunity to provide something with less volatility, and offer a similar warranty to help out the building owners. So it's been working out really well using the coatings.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Anthony, I'm going to throw this next one to you. Why would you say now is a smart time to diversify a company's offerings with restoration and maintenance services?
Well, times are tight now, right? Locally we hear a lot from our roofing contractor partners of slower schedules and where they used to be out 6, 7 weeks, they're out 6 or 7 days if they're lucky. Expanding your portfolio is always going to be something strong. And it gives you a time to learn something new. If it's not something that if you don't have a fluid applied restoration team or it's something that you're not familiar with, now's the time to learn because now those projects are going to become more and more available as building owners and architects are looking for more affordable ways and easier ways and simpler ways to extend lives of their roofs. It's going to be something that they can learn now and take into the future, keeping their crews busy and finding work. One of the great things about a fluid applied restoration system, something that we train on the APOC side is roof maintenance. I love the point that Howard made about cars. It's something that I often say.
Yeah.
You don't wait to take your car into the shop when you hear your engine knocking. But for some reason, a lot of people wait to look at their roof until they have a leak. So practicing and training, your crews on identifying these different solutions and getting into the fluid applied restoration and maintenance system is just going to be able to expand all of these contractors' portfolios for the future.
Absolutely. Anyone have anything to add on why now is a smart time to diversify?
Yeah.
Well,
So go ahead,
yeah.
Howard.
Well, I was just going to say that everybody that has a building has a roof, and
Right.
at some point that roof needs to be repaired. I think repairs are probably one of the more high profit areas of a company. A lot of competition in replacing or putting on new roofs, but repairing, everybody needs that. And there's a huge demand for people to just maintain the roofs and help them get the most life they can out of those roofs. I started in this business in 71, and the products that we have today are far superior to what we had back then. And I think in the case of a modified, if you have a good modified roof, that roof, if you maintain it, coat it, give it a new wearing surface instead of a 20-year life or maybe a 30-year, if you've got a really good system, you're probably talking at 40, 50 years service life out of it because you've protected the main structure of the membrane from the sun and the heat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
our side of the spectrum, I mean, the repairs that we do with these liquid products like the APOC product is very similar to the prep work, so it gives us an opportunity to show success using repairs and then also upsell the client on the same system.
Yeah.
I love
Oh,
that. I love that.
yeah. I would say diversifying right now is very important. We're in a volatile climate. We have tariffs going on. We never know what product shortages, that type of thing. We went through that where you couldn't get single ply, you couldn't get ISO board, insulation board.
Yeah.
resin supplies. So for a contractor, like Thomas saying, hey, we're going to be able to do everything. We're going to be able to offer everything to our client, to our customer. Hey, well, if we can't do the tear off now, or we can't do the single ply, what can we do? Well, doing the restoration is a viable option. And we saw that during the supply chain issues where, they couldn't do a re-roof. They couldn't put a single ply on. So they
Right.
went with the restoration and repair options. And Thomas makes a valid point that every single product that we offer, is part of the restoration system. And so you're already going through your steps. Once you get it watertight, then you can go on to making it reflective and protective and, prolonging the life of that roof. So it really does become a viable option. And it makes sense for contractors to have all of their arrows in their quiver, not just one or two.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so we have a question from Nick in the chat, but before we get to that one, um, I want to ask Anthony, in what ways can restoration and maintenance support a business? We've kind of touched on this, but let's get into the nitty-gritty. How can it kind of support and prolong a business's life?
Well, it's, like I said earlier, it's creating new revenue streams. It's
Yeah.
creating new crews. It's having more objectives and more tasks for employees to do, right? If you have a restoration system that you're providing for customers in Tucson, a large majority of our restoration projects are actually residential. Over 85% of our homes out here are flat or low slope. One thing that we've seen, and talking to Thomas a couple of days ago, something that his company specializes in is offering maintenance packages and service plans. It's something that we don't see a whole lot out here on the West, but we see as something that's a growing trend for some of these companies that are going to start doing fluid applied restorations and then offering 3 to 5 year service plans where they're sending a technician out every couple of months to come and do a roof walk, make sure the gutters or scuppers are clean, make sure there's no debris. So again, it's expanding your portfolio, it's creating more jobs, it's creating more responsibilities for crews. During downtimes, you can send guys out to do those quick maintenance things and really establish that long-term relationship for the end user. One of the best parts about acrylic restoration is that if you're maintaining your roof, these are constantly renewable, right? We can continue to recoat your roofs as the perms burn off over the time period of 5 to 10 years. If you have a service crew and you have a constant face in front of that customer, you're going to continue to build and be able to continue to keep that customer using your services for 10, 15, 20 years. And we know, in the landscape of business nowadays, it's not just them, right? It's their neighbors, it's their children, it's their friends, it's
Yeah.
their aunts, their uncles. So if you can build a strong relationship with that customer by providing a fluid applied restoration, your name's going to grow just by word of mouth with those customers.
That's so true. That's so true. And I love what you said about keeping that customer 15, 20 years down the road, right? Just by having that maintenance relationship with them.
Yes. Yeah. If you have a trustworthy friend or, someone that they know, hey, Tom came out and, made sure he saved me $20,000 by catching this repair. Had he not been out here for another 5 years, who knows how much damage would have been done, but, they're going to have more trust, in their contractor and it's going to grow their business portfolio.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay. So we're going to get to Nick's question that was thrown in the chat. So some clients know, but many don't, that you can't just put a coating on a roof. Can you talk about what deficiencies on a roof that would prevent a roof from being a candidate for a coating? Who wants to tackle this one?
I'd be happy to, unless somebody else wants to. But
John, this has your name written all over it.
This is Johnny.
Take it away.
So, yeah, when we look at roof restoration in general, you have to have a good candidate. So we're looking at, is the roof viable? So when we do roof inspection and when we do our trainings, in-house, for our certified applicator trainers, we train them how to inspect the roof and what to look for. So the biggest thing we're looking for are issues of ponding water. That's going to dictate what type of product we can put on. It also, we're asking if there's active leaks in the system. If there are, then we know that there's potentially water in the system. If you've got a structural concrete deck, you actually might have a saturated roof deck, a roof system that you can't put a restoration or even a roof over the top of that. So, properly maintained roofs, to Howard's point, if the roof is in good shape and it's been properly maintained, that's a restorable roof. So we're going to look for, big problem areas. We've walked roofs where there's literally trees growing through the roof. And
Oh,
structural concrete decks where it's saturated. We've had ponding water areas where we found, literally fish on the roof, all kinds of things like that. So proper maintenance is a big thing we look for. And you can tell these roofs when you walk up on it, whether it's been properly maintained, the scuppers and drains are cleaned, the edge metal is in good shape, all the debris has been removed. And, we ask for the active leak. And that's a huge key for us is, do you currently have any active leaks? We want to make sure we identify what those are, where they are, how much water's gotten into the system, and that's going to let us know. We evaluate the membrane itself to determine if it's coatable. Sometimes it's just beyond restoration. And although, hey, we want to sell coating restorations, the last thing we want to do is put good product over bad roof, right? You're going to have a failure, and then you're going to have an issue down the road. And, even if it doesn't go where it costs us money, you have that person who's now going to say bad things about, fluid applied restoration. We want to make sure that the roof is viable and can be restored. And so I'd say those are the main key points.
what does it look like when a roof is too far gone? Like that system is too far gone, like you said.
Yeah. So, I mean, if they've got leaks everywhere, the system is deteriorated, splitting and cracking all throughout, and that doesn't matter. It could be a modified bitumen system, could be a single ply system, where the membrane's just completely shot. You're starting to get, spider cracking that are cracked all the way through. That's, where the leak issue comes in, looking for how many leaks do you have? How widespread is it? When you're actually thinking about the membrane that you're looking at, you're going to look at your penetrations. So your scuppers, your drains, your curbs, your base flashings, penetrations through the roof, and, look at, splitting and gapping and deterioration there. So, the biggest thing is if water's into the system, it's causing leaks,
Right.
And we also determine what type of roof deck there is. Structural concrete's the worst for that. Concrete being waterproof in itself can allow the system to really saturate in large areas.
Yeah.
We look at National Roofing Code, there's kind of a rule of thumb that, if it's 20% wet, 25% wet, then you're looking at more of a tear off versus a restoration. And that changes, from state to state on what they will allow or don't allow. But, cost effectiveness, if you're tearing off, and Howard would probably agree, if you're tearing off 25% of the roof, you're probably looking at doing a full restoration or a full re-roof at that point versus replacing 25% and then doing a restoration over the top of it. So a lot of times when you're pulling off that much, everything has to come up to code. So, all of your racking systems for your HVAC units, your insulation, all of that would have to come up to new code and meet new wind uplift standards if you're going to tear off that much as well. So, we're just really looking for that. How many active leaks? How bad is the membrane in shape? What kind of roof deck? We do moisture surveys or request moisture surveys on several different types of roofs out there. We also look at multiple layers of roof systems. National Roofing Code will allow 2 layers of roof to go on. So you can have a single ply over the top of an old mod bid or a built up roof with a recovery board, and that can allow for not just moisture below the original roof, but moisture between the 2 systems. So those become very problematic for a roof restoration system as well.
Okay. Thank you, Johnny. Okay, gentlemen, we have another question that goes kind of right into that. Do you have to replace wet insulation before coating?
Yeah, so that answer is yes.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, if you put a fluid applied restoration on, you're going to further reduce the permeance of the roof system. And we think about, what does moisture do in the roof? Well, it rots out steel decks, it rots out plywood decks, it causes mold growth and bacteria and that type of thing. And on a concrete deck, well, that moisture is going to spread and saturate. But the other thing moisture does is when it expands. So you think about, a drop of water when it goes from liquid to gas expands 2,000 times its size. So you can build pressure in a system that can cause blistering. And if you've put a fluid applied restoration over the top of the roof, you can actually now cause that coating system or the original mod bit membrane to start blistering because you've literally reduced the permeance further and trap moisture. So, National Roofing Code that you're looking at, they only allow 5% moisture in the membrane layer. and 8% the insulation layer. Now, if you did a roof core and pulled that out, it would feel dry to you. You're not going to look, it's not like it's going to be dripping off if it's that dry. So it really does take some due diligence to investigate your roofs, do proper moisture surveys, do proper coring, use moisture meters to check the moisture content in the roof system. So, and that's something that we also train on, is make sure that, again, that's one of the big keys where, hey, this roof is not going to be restorable. So you're definitely going to have to replace that wind insulation, get it out of there. And depending on how big that area is really going to determine, is this going to be a viable restoration, or is this going to go over into a re-roof situation?
Got it. Got it. Thank you. Okay. And we have one more question from the audience before we get back. Do any of you know if there is a tax savings for the customer when they go the restoration route instead of replacement?
So the recent rules that have been put in place, you can depreciate the upfront cost of even a restoration system now, instead of waiting 29 years like you used to have to do. So as far as the tax savings, that's one of the big benefits of doing these, is that we're able to tell our customers about that. Many of them are unaware that you're able to do that. So yes.
Yeah, and a lot of, for, especially out west, here, we focus a lot in some of our bigger commercial buildings, LEED certifications, and our acrylic coatings are LEED certified as well. So for those organic facilities, food processing facilities out here in the west that rely on those different gold, platinum, standard LEED certifications, all of our acrylic coatings and our silicone coating LEED certified as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we meet Title 24. Used to say Cool Roof Rating Council, but Energy Star and all those types of things. So, anything that, when you're talking about tax rebates, we'd meet all the reflective requirements. And additionally, not just tax rebates, but, you can sometimes get, local rebates, state rebates, depending on each state, and what they require based on reflectivity, taking that dark roof. That's, you get the urban heat island effect. All these dark roofs, and New York did that at one point, where they say we're going to cool down the city temperature. And one of the ways they did that was we're going to take all these black roofs, these dark colored roofs, and make them reflective. And they had some nice rebates and that type of thing that go along. So along with tax, it sometimes can be local depending on where you live.
Love it. And that takes us directly into the next question. Which is fabulous. How do cool roofs achieved through restoration and coatings reduce building owners' costs and extend the roof life? Maybe Johnny can hit this one, or Howard.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Reflective coatings. When we're looking at the reflective coating, generally they're 80 to 90% reflective. Reflectance. That's going to take that roof surface temperature down to roughly around 10 degrees within ambient temperature. So if you had a roof system that, was, getting up to 160 degrees, surface temperature, now you're going to bring that down to within 10 degrees of ambient. So it's a 90-degree day, it's going to be around 100 degrees temperature. And that's not even enough to burn your skin if you walk down it barefoot. So, that can potentially reduce the energy cost, the cooling cost in the building. But that's also based on, there's some calculators that are available. I know we've got them linked on our website, where you can go in and put in all your data, what type of roof deck, type of insulation, how thick is the insulation, that type of thing. And that can give you an idea of what type of energy savings you might have, right?
Okay.
So we absolutely say that, yes, it can provide, but it absolutely will reduce the temperature. Now, if you have a poorly insulated roof, and we get this, I've got a project going on right now where it's a brand new metal roof, but it's uninsulated. It's just a great big warehouse. But that metal, even though it's a galvanized metal roof, is still getting up, hot enough to fry an egg. So we're going to coat the entire roof with a highly reflective. We're going to use, Anthony knows it very well, our 248, Arizona white coating to reduce that. So we're going to take that 160 degree, 170 degree surface temperature down to around 100 degrees. So that's going to bring that heat load down in the building. Make it more comfortable for the workers working in the warehouse, and just overall. So, the other type of savings that you see there is the longevity that it provides for the roof system. Because if you think of things, when they get hot, they expand, right? Well, your roof's heating up to 160, 180 degrees, are expanding a lot, and then they have to cool down. Well, with rains and all those types of things, and we know that in Florida, you get the afternoon rains, the roof cools off, sun comes back out and heats back up. Well, by cooling that roof system off, it's going to expand less. Well, that's less tension on your scuppers, your drains, your curbs, your field penetrations and seams and all of that. So that's going to prolong the life. And again, talk about cost savings. It's going to bring the cost overall down for maintenance and repair.
Yeah. Amazing. Howard and Thomas, I'd love to know, since you all work with building owners every day, are you seeing this become more popular? You know, people asking for cool roofs or reflective roofs, um, and to lower their heat or cooling costs?
We are seeing some of that, not nearly enough. Yes, it's great to save energy, but a
Hmm.
lot of these roofs are getting some age on them, and roofs have traditionally been out of sight, out of mind. Don't worry about
Right.
it, fix it if it leaks. So we look at the coatings more of make your roof last longer.
Yeah.
It's just a lot less expensive, but at the same time, using a white coating, you might get a rebate from the power companies. The states may offer some rebates if you do that. So there's advantages both ways, but in my mind, the big money saver is making that roof, instead of lasting 20 years, go 30 or 40, and then you may be able to recoat it again and get some extended life out of it.
Yeah.
Certainly. We're seeing it more so on the government side, as it relates to
Hmm.
the coatings and asking for them, for certain applications. As far as the private sector, I wouldn't say it's less known, but it's more so something that we have to sell. A lot
Yeah.
of these people, they're just interested in, some conventional roof systems as opposed to the coatings restorations, which also is a great thing when you bring that to them, the cost savings that you're saving them, you're giving them right off the front is a big benefit, and it's something that they're very receptive to once you start to show them the differences.
Yeah. Okay, so this might be an obvious answer, but how does restoration compare to tear-offs and complete roof replacement when it comes to cost, labor, and disposal? What are the differences between the two?
From my perspective, it's about the liability, contractor's side, and
Yeah.
we're able to do something that's more topical and bond to the original or the surface of the roof, like the fluid applied roof coating systems. I don't have to worry about running thousands of fasteners and screws through the deck, through the assembly, and potentially creating more issues.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, that's the way we like to push it. A landfill costs, I mean, just every single piece of doing a roof tear off or a even a recover, there's the costs are higher and the liability is higher. So that's the reason we like to push those coatings.
And when you think
Me.
about, when you look at it from the building owner's perspective, if you have an office space where you've got 30 or 40 people, salespeople making calls, customer service departments, to tear off a roof, that's extremely invasive.
Right.
Yes.
It's hard to be on the phone while someone's tearing off, and you're hearing jackhammers and you're hearing the scrapers and pulling everything off. Outside of making sure that there's no cars parked around the perimeter of the building, if you're providing a fluid applied restoration system, there's very little impact and very little invasion of the interior, the operations of that building. So from that
True.
perspective, it's a huge time and cost saver for those building owners.
Less intrusive.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, we generally, kind of see that the cost itself is about one third the cost of a re-roof, and I know that's an in general because every roof is different. The amount of penetrations and equipment on the roof are all going to affect that. But in general, we'll say that a full restoration that is warrantable just as long, as a re-roof would be in most cases, is less invasive, less liability for the contractor, and one third the cost. So it is definitely a viable option to be looking at, you know,
Yeah.
um, regardless of where you're at and what system that they have on their roof.
Yeah. Okay, so oh, Howard, were you gonna mention anything?
I was just going to say, we see coating projects, depending on the complexity and what you're doing, $6, $8 a square foot for commercial roofing. And to replace that roof, you're probably looking at $35 a square foot. So there's a substantial savings if you maintain that roof at the proper time and not try and make a bad roof into something good by just coating it.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty big incentive there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big incentive to have those maintenance programs built into your company so you are able to offer that to your customers at a lower price, when it is time to recoat and restore a roof system. So, Thomas, we've talked about, why it's so important to have all these maintenance programs and to add this to your business, but how do you and how do contractors capture more maintenance work and restoration work?
The restoration is captured through the maintenance.
Yeah,
If we're already up there doing maintenance with the fluid applied coatings, stripping in seams, three-coursing things, and have success, it just gives us an opportunity to, again, upsell the customer on the full restoration and give them a warranted solution as opposed to, repair solutions is something that you'll go on monthly, weekly, depending on what kind of issues they're having. But I can do the same, essentially, scope of work just to a larger scale and provide them with a warranted solution. So the trust is built through the maintenance program that we provide, in order to, when you offer them a new solution that provides a warranty, they're very receptive. And the maintenance is, that's number one. You have to do that first.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Anthony, how can restoration help contractors enter new markets like multifamily, like commercial properties? Maybe there's some people on here that are strictly residential and want to start getting into some of this light commercial work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, kind of continues on the trend that we're on here, right? It's creating
Right,
new revenue streams, creating, less invasive ways of maintaining buildings. When we talk about multifamily, light commercial, they usually have, pretty strict budgets when in
right.
terms of, building maintenance, right? And, sending, for contractors to be able to send out salespeople to sell those service prep packages that, include routine maintenance, routine repairs, and section by section restoration. I deal with a contractor down here that, really specializes that in multifamily where, they do building at a time. They might not do the entire apartment complex, in the same pass, but, they'll do two or three buildings, different periods of time. Again, it's less invasive. You don't have nearly the concerns. As we talked earlier, some of these projects can be completed late at night or early in the morning before, light commercial properties are present or open. If you have, the strip mall, a lot of those businesses aren't opening until 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. So,
Yeah.
you've got that nighttime or that early morning period of time where you can come out and get a lot of these repairs and maintenance projects done and completed that don't impact the day-to-day business or the day-to-day operations of individuals that are living in the multifamily complexes.
Got it. Got it. And if anyone out there has any more questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. We're still taking them, so don't be shy. Okay, so Thomas, I'd like to know, from your perspective, what messaging resonates with building owners when you're proposing these restoration jobs over, replacement? What are they liking to hear, basically?
Timeline for completion. Everybody wants things done quick, fast, and they want us out of there.
Yeah,
When we're doing the fluid applied versus, complete tear off, again, like we just spoke about, it's less intrusive. I'm not tearing off little tiny sections of roof and, disturbing the people underneath. Like he was saying earlier, you got somebody in there making phone calls and we're literally up there, removing screws, taking out insulation. There's banging. It's intrusive, so that is number one. Number two, we can get the entire roof in the dry after the prep work is completed. You go up there, you clean it, you prime it, and complete the prep work. That roof is leak free at that point. Then it just becomes, okay, now we have to grit everything out and coat it. So that timeline to completion, though, would be our number one factor when we're trying to sell these, and that's what they're most receptive to.
okay, okay. Anybody else have tips or tricks on, how to pitch this to building owners?
Well, when we talk about acrylic coating specifically, like we said earlier, they're constantly renewable. You can there's really, while we provide material and labor warranties, material only warranties, a ton of different options when it comes into that landscape. A properly cared for and maintenance acrylic coating can constantly be renewed. So it's not something, like if you've got a shingle roof or if you've got a tile roof or if you've got a single ply roof, those are going to expire at some period of time. And then it's only a matter of time before you have to tear off. Luckily with fluid applied coatings, we can save some single ply systems, but with an acrylic coating, you can continually maintain and restore that roof for the longevity as far as that deck is in, good standing condition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our
Okay.
approach is a little bit different, that when we get involved with a client that is just asking what they need to do is we'll do an evaluation and give them good, better, and best. We don't know exactly their funding situation,
Yeah.
and it may be extensive repairs, may just simply be a recoating, or maybe that roof is beyond reasonable repair and it's time to replace it. But we'll give them the options and try and give them some sort of forecast of what they would get for the investment. And many times we find it's just not worth the amount of money to put into repairs. There's just not the value that you would receive for that. So you need to look at something more extensive. But there are a lot of times when owners think the roof needs to be replaced, and a good coating with some repairs will give them 5 or 10 years of life, and that makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to stop sharing really quick. We have some more questions from the audience. Yay. So maybe Howard, you can start with this one. How do you get building owners to take maintenance seriously when they're only thinking about replacement?
Well, I think it's back to evaluating the roof and tell them what's wrong,
Yep.
what their options are. Many owners don't realize that you can coat a roof, that you can repair a roof. They're in the mindset that it's 18, 20 years old, it needs to be replaced. And that may be so, but we've seen lots of roof go longer than that. And a good coating and repairs may be something they haven't considered. So give them the good, better, and best, the best way to approach their project. And we even sometimes will throw in, if it's my building, this was what I would do to spend my money the wisest way I can.
Yeah. Any other advice from you gentlemen on how to get the building owners to take maintenance seriously, like after the project, and get that building on a maintenance plan?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
it's,
So,
go ahead, John.
oh, thanks,
Yeah,
Tom.
yeah,
We when you think of a restoration, a coating application, it's not just the coating. It's as Thomas said, it's got to be prepped, primed, patched. Then you put the fluid applied coating on, which is your reflective protective layer. But when you think about maintenance, roofs move, roofs expand. Even if we're going to slow the expansion, you have windblown debris, storm debris, that type of thing. You have other trades that go on roofs, HVAC guys. So absolutely, roofs must be walked, should be walked a minimum twice a year. If
Yeah.
you just do a biannual every 6 months roof inspection, clean your drains and your scuppers, those types of things, remove debris, look for windblown damage, look for contractor trade damage, all of that type of stuff. Small things can be repaired with small dollars.
Yeah.
But if you wait until it's a major issue and now you've got water infiltration that's saturated the roof area, well, now that area has to be cut up. So now you're literally talking about removing, being very invasive, whereas, a small maintenance, program could have taken care of that. We encourage contractors. And it's actually when we warrant systems, for example, we offer or we give our building owners a building owners maintenance guide that tells them everything they need to look for. In that maintenance guide, it says, hey, inspect your roof twice a year. If it's a warranted system, which we can offer anywhere from a 5-year to a 20-year, labor and material warranted system on the roof, that they have to go on the roof. So we educate that contractor to make sure that they're educating the building owner that this is part of the requirement to maintain their system. It must be inspected, must be maintained. all those things that I mentioned, just to keep
Yeah.
their warranty good. Because again, small issues can be fixed with small dollars. A lot of our contractors, and I think Thomas could probably elaborate on that. I think you guys do a maintenance program as well, don't you?
We do. So we, like you just said, you almost took the words right out of my mouth. We encourage the building owners to read the warranty and all the
Got it.
paperwork that comes with it. And that right there gives us our foot in to sell a maintenance program for the roof to make sure that warranty stays in force. So, I mean, that's the number one thing. Read the warranty. A lot of people, and we've seen it, I'm sure you guys have too, you put a roof on, you give them the warranty, it goes in a file somewhere. Nobody reads
Yeah.
the thing. You have to encourage them. And even if you have to, you go over it with them, so
Right.
explain the situation, explain what they need to do to keep this warranty in effect. That's the only way they're going to get the full value out of the money they're putting down to restore this roof.
So true. That's great
Yeah.
advice. And I love
Mhm.
that you sit down with them and read through it
You
if you
have
have
to.
to. That's great.
Yeah. You
Great
have to.
advice. Okay, another question from the audience. What software would you recommend to estimate restoration jobs?
I do it the good old fashioned way. We get up there with a wheel. Some things you're able to do via satellite. There's tons of takeoff companies out there, satellite takeoff companies, and you can use
Yeah.
them. We've hit and miss on those. It's the old fashioned way. You get up there, inspect the roof, evaluate the roof, measure the roof.
Got it.
Yeah, I think Thomas hit it on the head. We see a lot of companies that, use technology, and technology is great. AI is great. Drones are great, but a picture can only tell you so much.
Sure.
Unless you're on the roof, walking on a roof, you can't. A picture or a drone's not going to tell you if there's any deck deflection. It's not going to be able to identify if there's any moisture on the roof, right? Unless you have, one of those really, really high end $20,000 drones. It's got a, thermal meter to it or something. So, there's just some things, whether we like it or not. Old school is the only school where you're going to have to get up on the roof and feel and touch and do a little bit of labor, as hard as it is nowadays for to get some of us millennials to do some labor. Right? There's only one solution, and it's get up there on a ladder and touch and feel and see for yourself.
Love
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, I would
Hey.
say, if I can, before on that, I would say that absolutely, there are some tools out there. Some of them work really well, some of them don't. Getting on the roof, yourself is probably the best way, or having your contractor, do your estimate. But we do offer some spreadsheets, Excel type spreadsheets where you can input the information. And I'm currently in beta testing for our own website, where you're going to be able to put in there, square footage, lineal footage of seams, that type of thing, base flashings and all of that. And it'll give you a really good guide of how many buckets you need of this and how many buckets you need of that. So that should be going live here very soon on our own website.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay. So another one here. Keep them coming, people. We're mainly in residential. How do we get started in commercial restoration without overextending?
Well, first and foremost, you want to register for one of the certified contractor, certified applicator classes with APOC. We hold those classes in Phoenix, Arizona, Tampa, Florida, and Andover, Massachusetts. So first and foremost, get registered for one of those classes. If not, reach out to one of your local distributors to contact an APOC rep. We can also do certification classes on the go. One of those pictures that Megan had up earlier on that slide was, one of our demo trainings that we do on the road. So first and foremost, get in contact with one of your local APOC reps and find out how you can get certified and just, more importantly, I guess, learn more about, what you're getting into and what the demands are for commercial restoration.
I would expand that to say, start out in repairs and coatings. There's a huge need for that. And then as you begin to build your crews and get your experience in and any certifications that are needed from manufacturers, then begin to look at the commercial world. It's, I imagine all over the country, it's very competitive, but in Florida, it's extremely competitive. And there's not a huge pool of talent looking for work. If you're good in roofing, you've got a job. So build your crew, start out in repairs. Yeah, there's more than enough work to keep people busy and just repairing and coating roofs.
Yeah. Yeah. Great advice.
Yeah.
Okay. So going off of that, getting trained in the APOC certified trainer or applicator training, how can contractors train their teams to recognize and sell restoration opportunities during inspections?
So yeah, that like we were talking about earlier with technology, every single person it seems on this globe has a phone now. You know, we
Right.
use CRM software, so when we're up there doing maintenance, service, repairs, we're taking pictures of things. Now, what that does is it gives our office, our sales team, an opportunity to review those after the repair is done and gives us an opportunity to upsell to the client or propose additional maintenance, service, scope of work jobs, just to help the building owner really when we identify additional problems. We may be just up there to look at a leak and stop a leak, but there's always additional issues that are up there that can be remedied to try to
Yeah.
prevent further leaks in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every roof ages. Every roof.
That's right.
You know, and I don't care whether you're in Florida or Washington State, every roof ages. You have different climate, different temperature extremes, some dry climates like Anthony over in Tucson, you know, some extremely wet climates like here in Florida. So we all have our own environmental concerns when it goes to that, but they all age. So training them that, hey, as Tom said, you're going up there for a simple repair. Look at the overall situation of the roof. Look at the age of it. Look at the overall condition. Is this at the point where it's done and hey, all we're doing is band-aiding this roof? Or is it still in decent shape, minimal leak issues, and can we offer them to prolong the life of that? You know, because if you don't, what are they looking at? Even if you make a repair on a bad seam, well, the rest of the roof is still aging. And it's aging at a rapid rate. The UV's breaking it
Yeah.
down, the wind, the rain, all of that is attacking it every single day. You put a fluid applied restoration on there and do it right, not just a coating, you know, but properly prepped, primed, patched, and protected. You know, now you have a true system that will prolong the life of that roof. It's going to block the UV. It's going to reduce the temperature load on the building. It's going to reduce the expansion of the overall system. Everything's being protective universally, so everything is now expanding and contracting at the same rate versus patchwork, where you might have different color patches on a roof that are all acting against each other. So when you're talking about sales guys, how do they sell that? Understanding to use technology, take the pictures, look at the overall condition and say, hey, is this a good candidate? And make that offer. And, you know, Howard made a great point. Offer them a good, better, best. And hey, what's the good? We're going to fix your patch right now. We're going to make this repair today. I'm going to stop this leak. What's the better? Well, hey, we're going to offer you a restoration system that will get you 5, 10, 15, or 20 years down the road. And, you know, hey, what's the next option? Well, if it can't be restored, then you're going to offer them a re-roof. So always have those different options in your pocket that you can do on the system. And, you know, we talk about, you know, obviously we're talking about reflective coatings, but, you know, Anthony does a great deal of tan and cool gray type coatings,
Oh,
you
nice.
know, and in the northern markets, we do even some black silicone. So, you know, it doesn't have to be white. Yes, white's going to give you the reflective, but maybe you're in Minnesota and you don't necessarily need that, but you want to prolong the life of that system and
Yeah.
prevent the UV from breaking it down. Well, you can choose other options within the restoration arena that's going to give you more ways to sell with your company.
Yeah. That's huge. I love it. Okay, Johnny or Anthony, can you give us a little more info on the certified applicator training program that you all offer through APOC?
Well, it's Johnny's baby, so I'll let him run with it first.
I'm trying not to take all the time here, but yeah. So, you know, Anthony already really said it, but you know, we offer certified applicator training in Phoenix, Tampa, and Andover. We also do on the road trainings. We have a truck and trailer in multiple locations where we'll come around and do on-site trainings. We do tailgate trainings every day, all day. Every one of our
Cool.
sales reps out there is showing off product. But if you want to come in and be certified, go to apoc.com and click on register for the training class. Now, we offer more than just the certified applicator. One of the things I kind of talk about for one of the earlier questions was we actually offer a class, and it's just a few hours. It's like a 4-hour, you know, where we sit down and we talk about the benefits of fluid applied restoration. So we literally, it's diversifying your business with fluid applied restoration.
Amazing.
It's for that owner. It's for that contractor. It's like, hey, I'm in residential or I do single ply. I've never thought about doing fluid applied restoration. Why would I want to do it? What's the benefit to my company? What's the potential, exposures and benefits, all those types of things. And we go through all of the ways that what roof is restorable versus what's not. What is a restoration versus just putting a reflective coating on. But then we have our certified applicator training, which is designed for the actual guys installing the product, right? The guys that are going to be hands-on. So this is the superintendents. They're going to be running the jobs, the actual hands-on guys. We do not charge for our program, right? We have these classes. They're every month. You go on, you're registered, you come in. It's generally a 2-day class, unless it's for some reason a very small class. But it's a day of going over all of the policies and procedures and paperwork and inspecting roofs and what to look for and all of that, and then a full day of kind of hands-on. So where we're actually doing pipe penetrations and scuppers and drains and field seams and putting down primers and coatings, and working with different mastics, whether it be acrylics or silicones, and talking about which is the right. Is this an acrylic roof or is this a silicone roof? Which roofs are best for which. So they learn all of that in the certified applicator class. But they do get
That's
a
awesome.
really good in the diversifying your business class. They get a really good understanding of, hey, why would I want to do it? What's the benefit to my company? And what type of knowledge do I need to have? And do my teams need to have?
Wow.
So that's when we talk about the shingle guys. That's one of the great things. If you can come in and we can train them, they can do restorations. It's not difficult. It's understanding what to look for. And we have some contractors that partner with commercial roofers that they'll say, hey, I'm residential, you're commercial. They'll do the actual fluid applied restoration and repair. But if they need to cut out a section, they'll call a Thomas O'Toole and have him come out and cut that section out and replace that. And then they take it from there, right? So they do work together on these projects. So lots
Okay.
of ways that they diversify. But the trainings are great. We continually do these every single month. We have great response. And, the other benefit to it is when they go through our training, we move them up in our loyalty program. So it's an additional benefit for the contractor when they attend our trainings.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
We
such
like,
a great incentive.
we like those certification programs. NRCA has something very similar to that, which is not product specific. It's
Mhm.
or modifieds or single plies where the individual roofer can get certified after taking a test and passing that test. From our perspective as designers, we don't know who the roofer's going to be. So we like the certification programs to know who the actual mechanic is that's going to be installing that roof and
Yeah,
knowing that they are qualified to do it.
Yeah, it
that's
really
good to
puts an
know.
exclamation mark on that. We have been tasked with at APOC, not only to build, the strongest relationships in the industry, but we also want to be the training experts. All of our reps that are strategically placed, across North America, have been trained by Johnny Walker, who, if you've had the privilege of being around Johnny, he's one of the best trainers in any industry. I'll give him that.
No doubt.
You can learn a lot from just listening and watching him. But that's really something that we at APOC take pride on, is training. So whether it is a certification class, whether it is a demo day at a distribution yard, whether we are pulling the trailer out to a specific contractor's yard, we are tasked and take a lot of pride in developing and cultivating that training environment, training culture, and always learning something, or always, whether it's us learning something from the contractor, or it's an older contractor or a newer contractor learning something from us, we're always in the constant training mindset.
I
Never
love it.
stops.
I love it. Thomas, are there any certifications that you or your team have done that you would recommend?
Other than individual coding certifications, I don't know off the top of my head. We just get certified with every manufacturer that we feel has a performative coding solution, like the
Okay.
APOCs of the world. So yeah, we're certified.
Nice. Nice. And Howard, thank you for mentioning the NRCA certification,
Sure.
certification
Right.
program. It's really great. Everyone go check that out as well. They have some really amazing programs. So, okay. to round this out, we just have a few minutes left. This has flown by. Where can contractors find resources and support for this journey that they're on, diversifying their offerings?
Me personally, I like to lean on APOC, the manufacturers. I know Johnny is no stranger to a roof. I think he still loves getting on roofs, and I love to be on them with him. And I feel like when you bring the manufacturer out in the beginning, in the onset, it gives you guys an opportunity as well as us together to identify any issues. It gets our foot in the door with them. They're happy because this job's going to go APOC. They're on the roof first. We would like to bid it that way, and that's why we bring them in. But we always would like to rely on somebody like Johnny to get up on the roof at the beginning and identify these specific issues so that we can, bid the job properly and have a successful job for the client.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're in Florida, next week is the Florida Roofing Sheet Metal Contractors
That
Association.
is right.
So go to the convention, and if you're not in Florida, now you have an excuse to come to Florida.
There you go.
It is a great
You'll
show.
see
It's
us. We'll
huge.
be there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the
O'Toole will
best in
be
the
there.
country.
Yay. RMS will be there. APOC will be there.
Yes.
Howard will be there for a little bit. So definitely go to FRSA. Roofers Coffee Shop and Coatings Coffee Shop will be there. Come say hey.
Nice. We
Um,
will.
Amazing. Yes. And so people can go to the APOC directory on coatingscoffeeshop.com to learn more about their certification program, and everything else that APOC does to support the contractors they work with. And then also definitely check out NRCA and RCMA, some of these associations that are doing a lot of great things to provide information and certification for the contractors in this great industry. So anybody have anything else to add on where contractors can find resources?
Well, I'll
Yeah.
jump
So
on there too. Megan, not only do we have the major shows, the Western States, FRSCAs, but get involved locally with your state and roofing contractor associations, right?
Absolutely.
yep.
APOC is, one of the longest platinum sponsors for Arizona Roofing Contractors Association. The
Love it.
membership of that, includes classes. So whether it's tile installation, underlayment installation, coatings, single ply, these classes, once you're a member, specifically for ARCA or RCAT, Texas, California, everybody has a state or a local roofing contractors association. These groups all provide free educational trainings. So if there's something that a contractor needs more just overall general education on, get in contact with these local groups. That's what we're here for. That's what this industry relies on is constant training. And a lot of this education is readily available for you simply at clicking and registering on different links.
Yes, agreed. Agreed. Johnny, were you going to add something?
They stole it from me. So
Oh,
that was exactly what I would say.
I got you. I got you, Johnny.
I'll tell you that.
Okay,
Also,
now,
IBEC is a great resource. Used to be RCI, Roof Consultants Institute. That's a great tool. If you're a local contractor, your local IBEC will be doing trick classes all the time. Anybody can attend them. And, sometimes there's a fee for it. They do certifications, they do continuing education. So if you're really looking, depends on where you're at and what you want to learn. And a lot of times the manufacturers will go and help sponsor those events. So, yeah.
I was going to
amazing.
plug IBEC as well. There's actually two more educational classes coming up in the state in August and November. So get
Awesome.
hold of IBEC, and that's in Florida. And come to Florida and visit if you don't live here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gentlemen, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for chatting with me and sharing all your wisdom, and all this great advice. I'm gonna share screen again and just thank APOC for bringing this to us and being a great partner with Coatings Coffee Shop. So thank you, APOC. Thank you, Johnny and Anthony, for joining us. This has been absolutely amazing. And everyone can go to coatingscoffeeshop.com to the Read, Listen, Watch section on our menu to watch this live in 24 to 48 hours, or I guess on demand, not live. It'll be up on the site within that time frame, and you can share it out and send it to your friends and family and watch it over and over again and keep taking notes. So thank you all so much for attending, and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Megan.
Megan.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you on the next Coatings Coffee Conversations. All right. Have a great Thursday.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you so much.